MAGA Republicans are panicking in public as Donald Trump's war against Iran is demonstrating to be just an absolute disaster. You had MAGA Mike holding a press conference where he parroted what Secretary of State Marco Rubio said, that the reason we needed to invade Iran immediately is that Israel was going to invade Iran first. And if Israel invaded Iran, then Iran might attack the United States. Therefore, we had to invade Iran first because Netanyahu told us we had to. It's exactly word for word what MAGA Mike said during the press conference. Are you listening to your words, MAGA Mike? Don't you profess to be America first? Do you realize that you're describing something that's not defensive, that's literally offensive in nature? Here's what MAGA Mike said at a press conference. Let's play it.
They had to evaluate the threats to the U.S., to our troops, to our installations, to our assets in the region and beyond. And they determined, because of the exquisite intelligence that we had, that if Israel fired upon Iran and took action against Iran to take out the missiles, then they would have immediately retaliated against U.S. personnel and assets. We have troops in harm's way, and we have many Americans in the region, and that was of great concern. If we had waited for all of those eventualities to take place, the consequences of inaction on our part could have been devastating. We don't know at what magnitude, but you can assume, because it is common sense, that if Iran had begun to fire all of their missile arsenal, short and mid-range missiles, at our personnel and our assets and our installations, we would have suffered staggering losses.
And then Donald Trump rolled out all these MAGA Republicans like Markwayne Mullin and Tommy Tuberville, I guess, who were competing for who was like the dumbest and most asinine MAGA Republican along with MAGA Mike. But Markwayne Mullin thinks this is funny. He goes, Donald Trump said he created jobs in Iran by killing the people. Here, play this clip.
And the president's well within those 60 and 90 days. I mean, think about it. In less than 3 days, really, we have almost eliminated their ability to even conduct reasonable strikes. We've taken out their leadership and 40 other individuals. As the president joked about a while ago, he's creating jobs in Iran, which I thought was hilarious.
More from Tommy Tuberville. Let's play this clip.
President Trump isn't ruling out sending ground troops into Iran. What is your reaction to that?
Yeah, you can't blame him. This is not your Democrat war. This is President Trump's war. And he's not going in to be politically correct. He's going in to protect, first of all, Americans first, and then our allies and the people around the world. Iran has been the city of terrorism as long as I can remember.
And then MAGA Mike pretends that he knows about constitutional law. He's like, as you know, I zealously protect Article 1. That's what I zealously protect Article 1. You've literally abdicated your role as speaker. You've abdicated the role of Congress to function effectively as a check on the president. You're just like worse than the Russian Duma. But here's what he says. Play this clip.
Mr. Speaker, is there at any point you think Congress will need to give congressional authorization?
So, you know my background. I'm a constitutional law attorney. I'm a jealous guardian of Article 1 and the legislative branch. My understanding of the law, and has always been, and this is the tradition and the way the law has been used and observed over many decades, the president was acting well within his authority. What I just told you is the scope of what happened here and the situational awareness that they had at the time to make this decision. It's not a declaration of war. It's not something that the president was required, because it's defensive in nature and in design and in necessity, to come to Congress and get a vote first. And if they had briefed a larger group than the Gang of Eight, there's a real threat that very sensitive intelligence that we had, might have been leaked or something. So this is why the commander-in-chief of our armed forces has the latitude that any commander-in-chief, any president always has, because they have a set of information that is sensitive, timely, and urgent, and they have to be able to act upon it. They did that. Now, as you know, under our system, there are timetables that are involved here, but I think the idea that we would move a War Powers Act vote right now, I mean, it will be forced to the floor. But the idea that we would take the ability of our commander-in-chief, the president, take his authority away right now to finish this job is a frightening prospect to me. It's dangerous. And I am certainly hopeful, and I believe we do have the votes to put it down. That's going to be a good thing for the country and our security and stability.
I want to compare that to what we were seeing yesterday from Democrats, like Democratic Senator John Ossoff, who gave one of the most, he's been running such an incredible campaign in Georgia for re-election for the Senate. Watch, though, this incredible speech that he gave. Here, play this clip.
We're here today in wartime. And so on behalf of all Georgians, I express our grief at the news Americans have been killed and our deep sympathy for the spouses and children and loved ones of those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. And with immense gratitude for all who serve, we pray for the survival and recovery of the wounded and for the safety and success of American service members engaged in combat. The United States Armed Forces are the world's most capable military, and our commander-in-chief has no more solemn responsibility than the stewardship of their lives. Sending Americans into combat should be a last resort in the pursuit of vital national interests. 8 months ago, President Trump lied to the country when he falsely claimed to have obliterated Iran's nuclear program. Now he says he's taken the United States to war for regime change, without evidence of imminent threat, without having exhausted diplomacy, without clear objectives or a plan for the aftermath, and without the consent of Congress. The American people overwhelmingly oppose another open-ended regime change war in the Middle East. And the president owes Americans a real explanation for his decision to take this nation to war. 2 a.m. posts on Truth Social just aren't good enough when you're sending Americans into combat. The president was dancing at his beach club the same night he ordered air crews to launch into combat, and hours before our service members endured missile salvos. But our Constitution reserves for Congress, not for him, the decision to go to war. George Washington wrote, quote, "The Constitution vests the power of declaring war with Congress. Therefore, no offensive expedition of importance can be undertaken until after they shall have deliberated upon the subject and authorized such a measure." And so I intend to support this week's War Powers resolution to assert the proper authority of Congress over war and peace and to rein in the administration.
So by now you know that we've been reporting a whole lot on the Trump administration scrapping the endangerment finding. This is something that we can't just let drift out of the news cycle, so give me a minute to highlight some important info. So I want to flag a new analysis from the Harvard Chan School of Public Health on why this all matters so much. The endangerment finding was the legal and scientific basis that allowed the EPA to regulate greenhouse gases under the Clean Air Act. Back in 2009, the government determined that gases like carbon dioxide and methane threaten public health and future generations. That decision gave the EPA both the authority and the responsibility to limit pollution from vehicles and power plants. According to Harvard's climate and health experts, removing that foundation could mean more fine particulate pollution from burning fossil fuels. That's linked to higher risks of asthma in children, chronic heart and lung disease, and premature death, especially in communities near highways, power plants, and industrial sites. And long-term, the health impacts grow. Hotter days are tied to more hospitalizations and preterm births. Warmer conditions worsen ozone pollution. Wildfire smoke increases respiratory illness and mortality, and climate-driven storms can disrupt access to medical care. So yeah, this is a massive, massive deal. Harvard researchers warn that this rolling back puts real health protections at risk. Cleaner air has been tied to longer life expectancy and fewer asthma attacks in kids. So for all those Make America Healthy Again people, this totally flies in the face of that promise. This is why it's so important that we keep making noise about this and push for future administrations to restore the finding. So I want to hear from you. Leave a comment. Tell us what you think about this decision by the Trump administration. I want to hear your thoughts on these reports that we're doing on climate issues, how Trump's destruction of climate policy has affected your health, your electricity bills, jobs in your communities. I want to hear all of it. So again, make your voice heard in the comments now. Ben, back to you.
Then you have Democratic Senator from Virginia, Mark Warner, who serves as the vice chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee. And here he makes it clear there's no imminent threat to the United States. He goes, there may have been a threat to Israel, but is the United States official policy that if Israel's threatened, the United States must get involved in wars? Is that what the United States has become right now? Here, play this clip.
Let's also be clear. I said before, I've said now, there was no imminent threat to the United States of America by the Iranians. There was a threat to Israel. If we equate a threat to Israel as the equivalent of an imminent threat to the United States, then we are in uncharted territory. We have seen the goals for this operation change now, I believe, 4 or 5 times.
And then at the state level, you have Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom, who I thought was doing a good job going on the offense. Here's what he said during a presser yesterday.
We have to reconcile why our bombs were used or Israeli bombs were used to kill children, young girls at a school, and what the imminent threat was. It hasn't been described.
More from Gavin Newsom here. Let's play it.
Donald Trump spent more time talking about his ballroom than he did about the loss of those lives. Review the tape. Spend more time talking about the curtains and his ballroom than into the 4 service members that died because of his operation in his declaration of war without congressional consent. He still has not articulated clear vision of what the end game is, period, full stop.
Here's another clip I'd like to share with you of Governor Newsom. Let's play it.
Well, it stems from weakness masquerading as strength. It stems from his complete failure of this administration, this historic president who's historically unpopular, that is trying to distract from his failures across the spectrum. He doubled down on stupid during the State of the Union. No course correction at all. And you're absolutely right. In 2011, and he didn't just say it once, he did videos condemning, criticizing President Obama, suggesting somehow he was going to do this, and it was a desperate attempt for his reelection. But you had Tulsi Gabbard out there saying regime change is wrong. You had J.D. Vance saying that they lied to you. He lied to you. So reckless is the only way to describe this. He didn't describe to the American people what the end game is here. He didn't describe the existential threat of the moment, the immediacy of the crisis at hand. There wasn't one. He manufactured it. And now we're manufacturing a crisis of outcomes unknown and the uncertainty it marks at this moment. And that's Donald Trump, the chaos president, this wrecking ball president across the board. Destruction is not strength. And once again, we've seen him destroy not only our allies in relationship to the rest of the world, but we're seeing him destroy any capacity to explain fundamentally what the core American interest is at this moment, to declare war, to go to war with a regime. And all of this is playing out in real time. And we just pray for our troops. We pray for our allies. And we pray that Donald Trump is temporary and his time is up in just 3 years.
Or how about Democratic Senator Ruben Gallegos? Here's what he had to say.
I think that really pisses me off, to be honest. Like, I'm not that young. I remember Netanyahu coming to testify in Congress and advocating for us to invade Iraq, saying it was going to be a great result for the Middle East. So guess what? I'm seeing it again now. again and again. Men and women, young American men and women are dying because of these idiots, right? These idiots that are just willing to sacrifice U.S. men, U.S. women without any real thought about what they're doing and what the consequences they're going to bring to these families. It's just, I feel like I'm repeating, what I saw 20 years ago. I just don't really know what else to tell you.
And more from Gallegos right here. Let's play this clip.
The president hasn't been planned longer than a couple of days. They keep saying it's going to be a day 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Who the heck plans wars like that? That is not professionalism. That is not a top-rate military planning for all outcomes. And that's why there's 6 men dead and maybe even more going forward, because this administration did not plan for it. We are at this point also starting to break through and feed through all of our munitions, right? Where are we going to replace those munitions from? Are we going to be able to produce them fast enough? Are we going to bring them in from China? Are we going to bring them from Europe? This was not at all thought through because we were following another country's lead to follow their national interests and not our national interests.
And here I got another clip from Ruben Gallegos right here. Let's play it.
There's a lot of things we could have done, and there was just such a rush to war. And we're all paying for this. We're all paying for this. Whether it's we're cutting Medicaid to pay for those bombs, we're losing a whole attention to the fact that this country right now is just suffering and trying to get anything to just breathe a little so they could just pay for their everyday goods, food, insurance, whatever the hell it is. And what are our country leaders doing? They're following Netanyahu, who has literally told us, he just told on TV that he's been trying to do this for 47 years. I know. I'd suffered the first attempt at this in 2005.
Right. I mean, you take that. And again, contrast that to what Marco Rubio was saying. I mean, just so you know, Marco Rubio said what he said. We all heard what he said, right? And Marco Rubio's, I'll play the clip for you, but it wasn't, he wasn't equivocating. He said America went to war because Israel was going to go to war, and then America may have gotten attacked if Israel went to war. That's what he said, word for word. Now, I don't know how you deny that he said that. It's literally his words. Here, play this clip.
There absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. And we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow before we responded, because the Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first after they were attacked, and by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them to hit us, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths. We went proactively in a defensive way to prevent them from inflicting higher damage. Had we not done so, there would have been hearings on Capitol Hill about how we knew that this was going to happen and we didn't act preemptively to prevent more casualties and more loss of life.
And then I'll just show you our Pablo Manriquez was able to catch up with Democratic Senator Murphy. And here's what he had to say. Let's play this clip.
Are there any other points of leverage that you're thinking about that Democrats have in dealing with the Iran strike and the Iran war?
I can talk for a second, and then I got to get up to this leadership meeting. Listen, I'm voting no tonight to proceed to the housing bill because I think our entire priority right now should be on demanding a vote and debate on a war authorization. I appreciate what my friend Tim Kaine is doing, but a war powers resolution is not the same as a war authorization. This is the most significant military action since the Iraq War. This administration has a responsibility to bring a vote to declare war before the Senate and the House this week, if not this week, next week. So I don't believe we should be pretending that business is normal right now and moving to a housing bill, which I support, until we get a commitment to have a debate, a real debate on a war authorization. Then the resolution is not a war authorization. No matter what happens to that War Powers Act, the president does not have the authority to take this action unless he gets a declaration of war.
Well, there you have it, folks. Let me know what you all think. Hit subscribe, and let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.